welcome back to PA Truck Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Anja and Evo. How we doing?
We're
Very
good,
good.
thanks.
Nice. I like the unison in that.
We practiced it.
Just in front of the mirror in the morning.
Exactly.
Perfect. We've obviously met when I was in Switzerland, but if you give us a little background on who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are. As a strength coach and a business owner, my time is quite limited. My favorite part about being a coach is the fact that I get to interact with athletes and be with athletes and really coach them. That's why I use TeamBuildr. I remember the days of searching for exercises, manually typing them in, and spending hours on spreadsheets and organizing my programs. This tends to be quite tedious and a lot of time consuming, which meant that I wasn't able to coach as much. So now for my business, TeamBuildr is a non-negotiable. It's an all-in-one programming platform that lets you create and deliver workouts to your athletes just in a few clicks. With TeamBuildr, I can customize programs, track athletes' progress in real time, and generate performance reports. My athletes get full ownership of their progress and can even share feedback on how they felt the session's going. Having this in place actually gives me more time to coach and be with my athletes. If you're ready to take your next step in your programming, give more time to your athletes, head over to teambuilder.com and use promo code PAChalkup, that's PACHALQUP, and start your 30-day free trial.
Want to start?
Yeah, I'm Anja. I'm working as a strength and conditioning coach in Switzerland since, like, specialized really strength and conditioning in different sports since around 6 years. And as a coach, as an artistic gymnastics coach, and then dance coach as well. Yeah, so coaching about almost 15 years already. That's
Nice.
what I'm doing, and I just opened a gym with Ivo.
With me. Yeah, so I'm Ivo. I've transitioned into coaching about 5 years ago. I was an athlete before for a very long time. I was competing in swimming. Um, and I got into strength and conditioning when I was in England. So I studied at Modern University in Plymouth. I did my strength and conditioning degree there. And first I thought, I might not end up going into strength and conditioning. It was just an interest of me. And then once I was into the field, I was really keen on staying in there and building up my own thing. It was always a dream to have a gym, and so it's great to have one now. So
Perfect. I think is that also downplaying the at the level that you were competing at. I know you competed at a very high level as well. So, how was that transition from going into being an athlete and then now coaching those athletes?
Well, I did artistic gymnastics until I was 18, 19 years old. And to me, I immediately transitioned to coaching the gymnasts. So I think the first half year I was really happy to be a coach and not a gymnast anymore. I had a lot to process, and it just came back to me after half a year, I guess. So mentally it wasn't easy. I was struggling a lot, but I found myself in coaching, so it helped a lot also to have the backup of the gymnasts, and it was like fulfilling.
Hmm.
Was a process until I got there, but really helped me being with the
Nice.
gymnasts still. Yeah.
In terms of your own facility, how has that sort of process been like, and what kind of athletes do you have coming in?
Well, we have different cohorts. Do you say it in English?
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
chunks,
Groups. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
chunks of athletes.
Hmm.
Like Ivo brings in a lot of swimmers, of course. Um, Me, I have mostly floorballers, dancers, and indoor volleyball players. Like from first league to National League A, like
Yeah.
highest league in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you do have quite a lot of high level athletes coming in. How was that process like? Been like? from just starting your gym to like getting this type of caliber athletes in through the doors?
Well, I think it has been building up over many years. So, well, Anja is obviously coaching longer than I am, so she has built up her clientele over many years, making her name in the strength and conditioning scene in Switzerland. So, and I think in the end, especially in Switzerland, word of mouth is such a powerful way to get new clients, and it's probably a slow way, but I think it's really sustainable. So
Mhm.
what we're just trying to do is to do a really good job and make or have athletes then tell their friends about it, and then that's pretty much how it went.
Nice.
And for me, it
With
was
that, for
yeah. Sorry.
no, sorry, yeah, you go.
Well, for me, because I'm coming from swimming background, I have a very nice access to these athletes, and also in this scene, word of mouth spreads well. So it helps to get
Mhm.
these athletes in here, and also to have this mix of very high level athletes, juniors on the on the other hand. It's a really nice mix to have.
So how do you go from developing the younger athletes to then progressing into the more elite level?
Like the youngest ones we have, they are swimmers.
Yeah.
So the youngest, how old is like
They're
the
about
youngest?
16, 17 years old, the youngest ones
Yeah.
that come in. And I think we haven't pinned down every part of the way, if that's how you can say it. You know, it's like we have ideas on how we want to progress them over the years,
Mm.
but we don't have yet like a fixed system. I don't know if we will ever have that, but we have like checkpoints where we want them to pass through, and we know now they're ready to progress to the next level. And so we try to build up all the athletes individually.
It's good not to be married to a system because, like,
Yeah,
in strength and conditioning, the systems are changing so quickly,
Mm.
yeah,
and it's kind of like what we were speaking about when I was there. It's like if you're tied down to one system, and then that system doesn't work for your athletes, then like what do you do next? Do you just stop? So it's like constantly looking for that next level, that next avenue where they can progress. Because again, all athletes are individuals, so it's not like you can have success with one program for every single athlete. You kind of need to chop and change. With the sort of younger group, how does their training differ from the older athletes, the more elite level athletes?
I would say their training is way more general. So I think what I or what we are trying to do is to get them more athletic, or to get them to be more have like a greater physical intelligence as well, so they know how to move their body
Hmm.
in and out of the gym. Um, so we really start with very foundational movements: squats, jumps,
Yeah.
push-ups, running, throwing stuff. So really, really basic. And then the older they get, the more specific it becomes. But even the older, more elite athletes, they'll have very general means
Mm.
always in their programs, because I think the most specific thing they can do is play or do their sport.
Mm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. In terms of, sorry, go
Yeah.
go go.
I think also it differs much because Evo sees his athletes as well in the swim training, so he
Okay.
gets more insights also in there. Whereas my athletes, I rarely see them in their specific training. I see them here. I try to do the load management how they report on me, and of course I'm gonna watch games and stuff. But yeah, I think there's a challenge for me especially, but I think for
mhm.
you as well, um, to really have this leveling of
Mm.
how much is too much, how much is
Yep.
not enough. Yeah, so this is I think the biggest difference on working with the athletes as well, on in between us. Or
With
I mean I see the dancers dancing.
Mhm.
This, yes, but yeah, it's only one cohort.
Yeah, with obviously Evo also being able to see their swim training, how is the communication built between yourselves and their coaches for swim and Anya, your athletes? Do you have a good relationship between the coaches?
It really, it's very different. I mean, for me, with the swim coach, it's very easy. I'm there 5 times a week. I can always communicate with him as much as I or the athlete and the coach need. That really facilitates a lot of the communication. Other coaches I talk to or have email conversations only. So it's really depends on the coach, on the athletes and his or her needs. It's very diverse.
I think I have more contact with athletes from individual sports than
Mm,
with team sports. Definitely. Um, yeah, because all players or all athletes coming to us, they're all individuals coming. If they come from a
mhm,
team sport,
Mhm.
they're all individuals because they want to invest more in their strength and conditioning training, and they have in their team setting, but not as often, usually because of
mhm,
financial reasons. The club yeah isn't capable of bearing the costs,
mhm.
so they have to look for themselves on how they build up their
Yeah.
physique. So yeah, I don't know if you can put it like that, but I see less interest in the team sport coaches in
Mhm.
collaborating than with individual sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that then? How are you able to manage their load, and how much stress that they can actually take during that week?
Like with a lot of individual contact, like
Okay.
writing, calling. They also know that they should report after, if there's something coming up. We already know, okay, if the load of the week is really high, they know they should tell me after the last match or in
Mhm.
between the games, like how they're doing. And I usually have prepared few different types of training in
Mhm.
case they're really tired. I know, okay, I'm just doing some activation stuff or like regenerational training. Yeah, that's how I manage with,
Mhm.
yeah, especially team sports athletes. So
with
yeah.
with swimming being more intense than people give it credit for, Ivo, how do you manage their load, and how much stress you can sort of put them through in the gym when they wake up at 5 4 in the morning to hit 2 hours in the swimming pool, and then go to school or go about their job, and then have to go back in at some point?
Yeah, it is one of the greatest challenges in swimming, I think, because there's such a high training load on the athletes. They usually swim 6, 7, 8, 9 times a week, and then additionally come to the gym 2 up to 3 times a week, depending on their physical state or their races. I think for me, again, what makes it easy is to see them a lot in the pool as well.
Mhm.
So sometimes you see more when they perform their sport, which is way more complex than the movements in the gym. You see how they're doing. I can talk to them a lot and really get a sense of where each of the athletes is at. Um,
Mhm.
and I think also what helps is to have some objective measurements. We use the Hawken Dynamics force plate in our gym, so we have some feedback on how's their power outputs today, how is their jump performance, then what do they tell us, so we really can blend together some objective feedback with the subjective feedback from the athletes.
So you do a lot of like readiness tests to make sure that they can either push or decrease their load for that day. With your um, dance athletes, how what sort of programs are you doing for them, and how do you prepare them? I've never had a dance coach on. Again, fundamentals are fundamentals, so I know everything will be there.
Mhm.
But like, what's the differences between your normal athletes to dance athletes?
Well, first of all, it depends on what style they're dancing.
Okay.
So it used to be more classical and contemporary dancer, which who could be professional dancers. And the last, I would say, 10, 15 years, there's more urban dancers as well, like doing it professionally. So it's increasing the need of strength and conditioning. It's still not where I want it to be. And yeah, this is the first factor. Then I decide on, is it a dancer from a company, from a city company, how do you call it, Stadttheater. It's running from state,
Mm.
from a city, like an, how do you call it in English? There's like
I
there's
don't know.
like a free scene, and as a there's like a
Like,
state, or like
yeah.
a,
So like
you
more
know,
like royal ballets and sort of like,
exactly,
yeah,
That's
exactly,
yeah, you
like the
can compare it to
more
that.
official, like, um
organizations. Yeah, the funded ones.
organizations.
Yeah, the funded
Exactly.
ones.
So
Yeah.
you have the free scene and this one. So I it depends on in which one you are, as a contemporary dancer, let's say. And when you're in the free scene, your schedule is really free. So you
Hmm.
make sure, if you're in a project, if you're in one project, you're already thinking ahead, um, on where to go next. So it's always this stress and this pressure on, do I have a job after this one?
Mm.
And it depends also on the choreography. Like, is it a really like physical choreography? Is it more like easygoing? Is it, how long is the piece they're performing? And then is always also this phase in between where they're when they're just training, and maybe they're teaching as well, so the load is really really high. So
Mm.
this is the biggest challenge, to find spots still for some strength and conditioning. So yeah, it's really hard, and it depends on style, on where they're at, in which scene,
Mm.
and yeah, how's their schedule, like.
Yeah.
And it's
With.
always different, and it could change like from week to week, or the
Mm.
choreographer says, okay, we need more training, or we need more rehearsals on for the performance, and it can change really quickly. So it's a big challenge in this,
Mm.
to manage the load, manage how they can build up consistency in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With their program in itself, like what do you put in to make sure that they can be a explosive and durability throughout the whole piece that they're assigned?
So it really depends on the load they have, but I always start with foundations, because they have like also plyometric and strength foundations with like really basic lifts, just to build up resilience, in there, and then building it up until like very specific jumps. So
Mm.
maybe sometimes I really implement also their jumps, their dance jumps in it, in the
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
But this is really when they, it always depends on how much load they have. Usually they're in an overload, like,
Hmm.
in an overtraining. So it's, I really build it up. I just make sure they have a good foundation. They can always come back if they have a, like a harder time, or like a most more stressful time. So they can come back on these foundations. And I think it's just about really getting to know the basics of strength and
Hmm.
conditioning, because there's so many myths still
Mhm.
in the dancing. They're not into strength and conditioning. They don't know
Hmm.
what it is. They hear about it, and I think the underlying issue there is still, dance, is it art or is it a sport? A
Hmm.
lot of dancers, they don't see themselves as athletes, they see themselves as artists. So
Okay.
in there, they don't see the need of strength and
Conditioning and
conditioning.
yeah.
Yeah, because they do art, they don't do sport, but it's shifting. So
Hmm.
it's really shifting.
How do you sort of talk to them and make them sort of see the importance of strength and conditioning for dance, where it is seen as a and are as opposed to being athletes?
Well, those contacting me, they are already over
Halfway. Yeah.
over this hurdle, or like
Hurdle.
this
Yeah,
hurdle.
hurdle.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're already over it, and they're interested in building something up. And yeah, but still, there's some things coming. I'm
Mm,
gonna try to, yeah, to build this community, or like to build up this community with
yeah.
workshops. Like, yeah, so it's coming.
I think
Um,
what I can see from the outside, I mean, I'm not that deep into the dance world, but I think
I can see
the
you doing some
athletes,
pirouettes.
well, maybe when I'm alone, sometimes I try, but yeah, I think the ones, or that's at least my how I perceive it, the ones that come to our gym, the dancers, I think they make that connection that being an athlete can help them express themselves in their art. So it's like it's combining these two. It's not an either or scenario.
Hmm.
So they don't
Mhm.
have to be an athlete or an artist. They can be both. And
Yeah.
being more athletic or having more physical capacities
Hmm.
can increase their capacity to express themselves
Hmm.
during their piece.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like finding that extra gear for them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to come back to your question about how I'm programming, or what's the content of programming, it's also, of course, a lot of mobility work. Like a lot of dancers, they have big ranges which they can't control. So
Mhm.
it's also about this, like, um, building up where they are, like, first of all assess where they are, and then building up strength in those ranges they have, like, and building
Mhm.
up explosiveness or explosivity in the ranges they need. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this makes it
That's
really special, because you don't have this in any other sport,
mhm.
where you need to be quick in this kind of ranges. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a really good point you've brought up.
mm,
How do you program for them controlling wider ranges? And this sort of ties into swimming as well, specifically if we're talking about like butterflies and things that they have to come out of the water against, sort of obviously that pressure to then fully extend and come out on the other side. How do you build strength through long ranges of motion?
like you do in short ranges of motion. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
it's the
this is
same
exactly what I
principle.
want you to talk about, but
Yeah.
I want you to explain it.
Well, I use isometrics at the beginning. Like, I usually go to end range of motion, and I test them if they can hold their passive, or where's their active range at. Like, we have a passive range, we have an active range, and i see I see the gap, and I then decide on if we need more isometrics at the beginning, just to make sure that the neuromuscular control is given. And then I work a lot with eccentrics. this is what I
Mm.
this is where I build the foundations up. And
Yeah,
then I add eccentric, concentric, both, where I add speed. Yeah, it's like building this foundation over that.
yeah. I've been talking about this sort of principle where it's essentially thinking about where your muscle insertions and origins are and how you need to be strong in both sides. So say for like your
Hmm.
hamstring, that's the easiest one to give an
Hmm.
example of. So you've obviously
Hmm.
got your hip dominant movements, so like your RDLs, your good mornings, all those type of hippie
Hmm.
movements. But then you've got the other side, which is your knee dominant movements.
Hmm.
Now, if we think about running, you're you're more likely to get injured at this end point here when you're striking to push than you
Hmm.
are on this shorter end. So
Yeah.
building up strength on that side of
Hmm.
things, so like your leg curls. But then when you're getting more into like physical contact where you're coming from this position and you're driving up,
Hmm.
you're needing more of that hip explosivity and that drive.
Hmm.
So it's kind of looking at that whole range and that arc of muscle and just being like, I need both ends strong. So then your isometrics, your eccentrics, but then you
Hmm.
need to develop that explosivity to make sure that they
Hmm.
can. at split second react. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
have adding in that ballistic type movement. So like if we were to go on like say a Swiss ball, hold it against the floor and just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
quickly quickly explode so that you can have that reactivity, that
Mm-hmm.
end range. So I'm fully extended and I'm just being as ballistic as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got like this arc of strength from where it would be the weakest point at the biggest stretch, but now it's strong enough to deal with that explosive load. Is
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
sort of similar to how you use guide your programs?
Yeah, but it's really on the end of this foundational program, I would say.
Hmm.
It's like I really want them to build up resilience. It's resilience, no?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So because their load is already this much, like
Hi.
sometimes they, it's really high. So if you imagine, if you have rehearsals for a choreography, they're usually rehearsing like up to 8 hours a day, and it's not
That's
always physical. It's also cognitive work, but at least 4 to 5 hours they're physically on
mm,
it. So, and then yeah, you have to decide as a coach and also as an athlete. So, how much can I still do in the gym afterwards or like next day? Do I rather do like regenerational stuff or do I really push them through with these explosive um, type of exercises in end range, which is really demanding. Yeah, those are really the challenges, and yeah, they're always very tired. Like those
mhm.
dancers I train, and I know, and from myself as well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So having phases where I can really build that up is
Hmm.
rare.
Yeah. I know that
But
you
yeah,
use to collaborate on programs quite a lot. So how does that sort of fit in with your swimmers, Evo?
Yeah, collaboration is probably the key word here. I really
Yeah.
like to work with Anja together on these sessions because I believe she's way more skilled in this specific mobility work than I am. I mean, I have the foundational knowledge for it, and I'm sure I could program something okay. But if I have her that to look to or ask questions to, I really like to include her to look at the swimmers. They usually spend a session, at least a session, with her as well, so she can have a look at them,
Mhm.
identify their weaknesses, and then build a program specific for the athlete in front. I think in swimming, you have a lot of different challenges when it comes to mobility. I mean, some can't yet achieve the ranges they need to be efficient in the water. Others have massive ranges but can't control them, similar to the dancers. So there are very different challenges, and so
Yeah.
I really like to access her knowledge for that.
Mhm. How do you deal with sort of and this kind of goes both to both of you, with the hyperextension that comes from both sports?
well, to a performance standpoint, if you would ask a physio or someone from rehabilitation, they would probably give another answer.
Yeah.
So,
They'll be injured
from
in 2 days.
a
Yep.
mhm, mhm. So, from a performance standpoint, I don't see um, that you're not training your hyper extensions. So,
Yeah.
this is your natural full range. Learn to control it. Learn to build up strength also in those ranges because you're gonna get into it. So, and if you're not going into it, if you're avoiding those hyper extensions because um,
Uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable or it's dangerous,
Hmm.
like people would say, people from the more medical field would say it's dangerous to go in there. Also coaches, I see their point, but how would the tissue, how would the neurological system know if you're never going into it how to deal with it? So
Hmm.
it's not about going into it like it happens in their sports. They go in very quickly and come out very quickly from those big ranges. It's about how I do build it up,
Hmm.
that the joint is capable of bearing those loads.
Download.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not that I go directly. with a high amount of speed into it, like, or with a high amount of load. It's I build it up, and I that's why I go into those ranges. Even I told you before, I always assess them in their end ranges. Can they
Hmm.
hold it? Can they control it? And if someone comes to me with a hypermobility, hypermobile joint,
Joints.
I go in. I go in. I don't force it, but I go in and I tell them, "Hey, try to hold it there." And I see if they're capable of, then cool. We can build up more strength in there. If not, this is where I'm gonna put on the work. So
Use also put, as Evo mentioned, a lot of emphasis in the um, mobility work and sort of unlocking these ranges and sort of controlling through them. You have specific classes in your gym for these types of classes. What's the sort of athletes that are attending these classes, and what have they gained from being there?
it's actually an open class, so it's not only for athletes. We have
Okay. Okay.
different types of people coming, but there are some athletes coming, and it's mostly from different. It's like dancers coming, but also lots of runners. So yeah.
I was going to say,
So
how many footballers do you have?
how many what?
Football athletes do come to that class?
Zero.
I knew it. I
Zero.
knew
Zero.
it.
Yeah. No, it's mostly like, yeah, runners. We also have floorball athletes coming. Yeah, people who know already that there's a like a
Higher risk.
deficit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a deficit. They have a deficit in it, and they come and they get their input there.
How much attention do you put on the posterior chain for your running athletes and for your sprint based sports?
Also, COD
No,
a
posterior
lot.
chain.
Yeah, posterior chain, but
Yeah.
also change of
Oh,
direction
COD.
sports.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
you.
like
Yeah.
a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
and women and female athletes even more. Posterior
That's a good
chain
one as well.
and adductor. Yeah.
With your female athletes that are playing like football or hockey or some sports where you're kind of low and there's a lot of COD accelerations, decelerations. Um, how much emphasis are you putting on that sort of knee control and um, making sure that they can stop effectively?
hmm When it comes to knee problems, I always assess the hip first.
Okay.
Like I have a look at the hip, in which range of motions, or in which motions, yeah, in which
And
direction they have a problem, and I ultimately see where to put on work. Mostly it's problems of the rotators,
External
the
rotators.
external rotators. There's most of the time a big issue, or the adductors, when it comes
mm,
to knee problems. Not only, but yeah, when it comes to knee problems, I always assess the hip first to see if we can already put some effort from the hips for the knee issue.
mm,
But yeah, I put a lot of like work into posterior chain and adductors in there, like just also preventive,
mm-hmm.
in a preventive thought. There's always stuff in it, like, and
Yeah.
when someone comes with a prior like injury, for example, I have some handball players, female athletes. There's even more, like we push those hamstrings and calves, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of external rotators from the hip,
Yeah.
because female athletes, and they are very quadriceps dominant. So I work a lot on that, and also if it comes in handball, also adductors is a big
Mm-hmm.
theme in their program.
What's your go-to considerations for your swimmers, Evo? Like, what's some of the things that they have to have for you to see that they are progressing in a linear way?
Probably different answers when we look at the pool side, or what I'm
Mm,
looking at in the pool compared to what I look at in the gym. Um, if I have my gym glasses on, I mainly look at how explosive are they. I work
mm,
a lot with sprinters and middle distance athletes. I have less long distance athletes, um, and also how are their shoulders, because that's
mm.
in swimming the
Very
most
important.
predominant uh, issue that can occur. So um,
What's some mitigation like steps that you put in for their shoulders?
there's several points to that. I think the most important one I've realized, and I think it's in many sports with overuse injuries, it's the same thing, that the most important thing is the load management in the sport specific training itself. If they swim 60, 70, 80 kilometers a week, there's little I can do in the gym to really prepare them for it, or to have them be resilient enough to handle that. Unless they've been built up in the pool well enough to adjust to these loads, there's little I can do. But um, what I like to look at in the gym is how well is their spine moving, how well are their scapulas moving, how are their rotators, are they strong enough, and help them build a foundation. But then in the end, it really depends on the load management in the
Mm.
pool, whether they can handle it or not.
How are you um, strengthening these areas up, or how are you making sure that they're able to take that load through these little different muscle groups?
There's also different approaches. I think, like I said, a part of it is in the pool itself. So have them do a gradual increase of load in where they swim, just with their upper bodies or with
Mm.
paddles, stuff like that. We're also getting one of these power towers, I think they're called. Really, I'm really be interested to work more with these as well, also from a strength coach point of view, because it's probably one of the only ways you can load the swimming
A little more
really
specific. Yeah.
yeah, probably the most. You probably can't get more specific than that, and see how that can be implemented. But then in the gym, again, it's really basic exercises for lower traps, upper
Mm.
traps, external rotation in different positions. So in an abducted position, in an adducted position, in overhead. So there's many ways to do it, and in the end, I'll probably just stick to the most basic, or one of the most basic principles of progressive overload. So I just make sure I'll start them low and build them up and see how they react also in the pool.
So you're kind of in a unique position that you can also try and have input on the loading systems that they do in the pool as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
it depends a bit in which group they are. I have some more coaching influence in some
Mm.
groups, whereas I have less in others. So sometimes I can also co-create the pool sessions, so that uh,
Yeah.
helps
So
or
you've got a
gives me
bit
a lot
more.
of opportunities. Yeah.
How does that then transfer into your athletics type programming?
You mean the how the
The
swimming?
runner, yeah. Like what differences or emphases do you do differently for the runners that you're coaching?
It's a good question. Um, I think on the other athletes, I depend way more on how well we can communicate with each other. So um, and I think I'll approach these athletes differently. So
Mm.
I try to lose my swimming background and then really get into their sport, because swimming is very specific and very different. There's probably less transfer to other sports than, let's say, within football and floorball. So um, yeah, I don't think I have a single answer for that. It's really depends
Intertwined,
on
yeah.
yeah.
The only thing that they have in common is that they're linear, like they're straight forward.
Yeah, right.
No, what's what's some resources that you would recommend to other coaches read when they do have different sports coming in and like a multi-sport approach to their programming?
I think what helps um, are really foundational, how can you say, principles to understand how you progress athletes in the gym, how you. I'm trying to think of a certain resource that has really helped me with that. I think a book that I really appreciated was from James Smith, I believe. It's
Mm.
the I'm trying to think of the name. Um, yeah, I can't get it.
He's got a couple books.
Yeah, he has a couple. Um,
Is it the? He's got confidence. He's got not a life coach.
wait a sec. I'll go and look it up.
How about yourself, Anya?
You mean what advices I would give to other coaches with a
Just
multisport
uh,
athletes?
just resources that you would recommend coaches read or invest in.
I would definitely invest in communication skills. I think this,
Yeah.
100%.
no, 100%, because
Yeah.
if you are working with different type of sports athletes from different kind of sports, and you don't have the insights like Ivo does with the swimmers, you're really forced to have good communication skills. So you need to have this interest in it,
Hundred
because
percent.
I
I
think
will always.
it
I
builds
will. Oh,
different it yeah, it builds
sorry.
the trust and the foundation of the co-working.
Mhm. I will
So
always recommend this book, and it's conscious coaching.
conscious
Mhm.
coaching, yeah, we have it.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's one of the first books I ever read, in
yeah.
like when I was starting strength and
Mm,
conditioning,
mm-hmm.
and it does shape the way that you walk into the weight room and you see
Yeah,
different athletes and how
yeah.
you even like the communication. Like if you know you've got a kid that has had a little bit of a harder life, you're not going
Mm,
to scream and shout in their face. You're going to be like, "Hey,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how are you today? How are you feeling?"
Yeah, yeah. I would invest in everything that has to do in also like emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
like to really understand and
Mm.
to learn how to listen and how to read
Hmm.
certain informations,
Yeah, so like work
non-verbal,
more on your
verbal
soft skills.
information.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I would recommend this,
Mm.
because there's so many courses on training specific content, and there's
yep.
a lot of good stuff. But I would,
We're not lab
if I
rats.
if yeah, I would at some point, of course, you need to have like a good foundation in there. But then if you don't know where to invest anymore,
Hmm.
invest in your soft skills. Yeah, invest in how, yeah, in like psychological skills.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
agree 100%.
yeah.
And I found the book that I was talking about.
Mm.
It's the governing dynamics of
Ah,
coaching. So
yeah.
it's the other James Smith.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same name,
yeah,
but it's not the same person. And what I really like about it, I think James is really good at outlining the different skill areas that a coach can or should have, and can really, and he gets across these foundational skills or the foundational principles that we can build on in our uh, daily processes. So I think it's a good reference or a good book to earth yourself as a coach. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's perfect. And what advice would you give to new coaches or coaches wanting to come into this industry? Apart from obviously the learning the fundamentals and the
Yeah.
psychological, like what's one thing that you'd recommend them invest in or like advice that you would give them?
So for me, I still feel quite young myself in this area. I mean, I don't feel like a very seasoned coach, although I might be more seasoned sometimes than I think I am. But I think the most or one of the most important things, aside from the all the soft skills that come with coaching and the attention you can spend on watching the athletes and really watch how they move, and I think it's about learning, about always willing to question your beliefs, your
Mhm.
systems that you've built up for potentially a long time, to always try to disprove them in a way, like
Hmm.
see if you can spot something that's different
Could
from
be
what you
better.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So that's never been brought up on this episode, on this podcast, and that's a really good point.
Mhm.
And it's that thing of playing devil's advocate against yourself,
yeah,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
really
yeah,
being like, okay, I'm running my system this way, but
Mhm.
why? Like, why am I doing it
yeah,
this way?
Yeah.
Like, why
Always.
am I?
Yeah.
I love that
I would
actually. That's a
say,
really good.
yeah, I would 100% agree and confirm that. Like to really reflect yourself, take time to reflect yourself and to question your beliefs and your way to go. And maybe something more specific to me, when I started coaching, I always had this inner stress of that, like a program is complete. Haven't
Mm,
I forgotten anything? And the programs I created were super long, too long, way too long for the athlete.
classic.
So rather focus on the most important, like always ask yourself which ones or which exercises are really the most important
mhm.
on the athlete's needs. So
Yeah,
rather do a shorter program than
I'll tell
a
you a
Too
too
funny
long.
story
long.
on
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
When I was in college, we had a module that was strength and conditioning, and
Hmm.
again, I was already working in gyms at that point, so I was like, yeah, programming, I've got it nailed. Um,
Mm.
so I made exactly what you're saying, this massive program that I was like, that's an hour long. And then I handed it in to be marked, and the lecturer, he was like, okay, how long do you think this session is? Like, if we were to go into the gym, how long would it take? Like, an hour. Okay. So
Hmm.
just on rest time alone, you've got
Hmm.
15 minutes. Like, okay. If I'm
Hmm.
used to
Hmm.
the science principles of, if I'm doing strength, 5 minutes in between, like 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long in between each set? Like sim. So five.
Hmm.
Not set. Sorry, like set of exercises. I'm like sim again, like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so that's another 15. That's half an hour just there. Okay, and then he was like, "How long are each exercise? How long does that take you? I don't know, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Okay, add that up." And I was like, "Oh, I'm over that one
Hmm.
hour."
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's like these
Yeah.
little things that, like, when we're talking about make sure that your program is running to the time that they have, like you need
Hmm.
to count like the seconds that it takes to get the exercise, the seconds it
Hmm.
takes to get each piece of equipment, the walking around, the talking, the explanations, like that all needs to come into question. And like
Hmm.
it's not good to just make a big program and be like, yeah, that's an hour go. Like
Hmm.
as you get more experience, you then start thinking, okay, I know he's going to talk quite a lot, so I'm
Yeah.
going to give him minimum rest and squeeze in as many exercises as I can to limit at least the amount of time that he's
Hmm.
speaking. He can speak
Hmm.
once he's finished the set, but then he has to go back on, and we're getting
Hmm.
that session through this way. That's a really important
Hmm.
point as well.
Hmm. And I see. I'm talking like I'm very old, but I see younger coaches struggle with that. So I see myself in them, like, and that's, yeah, yeah. Where I realized, okay, I was like them. Like maybe this would be an advice,
Hmm.
yeah, to
Yeah.
like be patient. Also with the kind of seeing the progression over time is also like something I struggled.
Mm.
So being really patient and not change too many things, like really be specific with your kind of changes you do in your program.
Mm.
Yeah.
The best changes is equipment. Keep the same exercise but change the equipment, because
Yeah.
they're getting
Mhm.
some variability in there. They're getting
Yeah.
something fun, but they're still
Mm-hmm.
doing the exact same movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
one hill that you would die on in this industry? Like, what's something that you fully will fight to the death and back every single time?
That's a really tough question.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because I think I'm a
Just
very
spend 55 minutes speaking about how flexible is important.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I think since I think or I consider myself to be a very very open person, and I like to discuss
Mm,
all the hills. It's like I don't think I have one where I say on this I'm so firm I won't give it up. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I always engage in discussion on any theme, and I'm always ready to adapt my opinions if I feel it's appropriate. So
Yeah.
I don't think I can say I have something.
well, the only thing is people who still believe that I mean, you can be too flexible or too, you can be too flexible for some
Hmm.
stuff, for some sport, yes, but you can't be too mobile.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, mobility for me has always this active aspect. And when it comes, for example, I had a discussion on ankle stiffness with
Mm,
people. Like, I usually train the athletes to have strength and control over their whole range, but I then adapt their ranges during the season, or like before
hmm.
the season, like on how they need it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I specify the ranges at some point, but I will always have them going into full range
Hmm.
at least
Yeah.
once a week,
Block.
let's say.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's that thing where if we take like floating heel as an example, we need to
Hmm.
get floating heel flat, mid, top range to make
Yeah.
sure that strength.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I agree.
So just that they learn the whole ranges to control the whole ranges. So that's my, yeah. So I'm
That's your hill.
still, that's triggering me when someone says don't do mobility training because you have to be stiff. Like,
Mm.
Mm,
yeah,
it's not exclusive.
it's not exclusive, exactly. Yeah,
I
No.
always say that it depends, and
it
like
always depends, of
Mm,
it
course.
always
Yeah.
depends again on
Mm,
the athlete, on their sport, on the
mm-hmm,
demands, on the way
mm-hmm,
that they play, on
mm-hmm,
something as like this might be more for like team sport athletes where there's an element of trash talking and there's talking in between their game. Like you also need to
mm-hmm,
account endurance into that. Like that takes
mm-hmm,
time, that takes effort. They need to make sure
mm-hmm,
that they can keep up that shit talking throughout the whole
mm-hmm,
game. So it's stuff
mm-hmm.
like that that it always depends on. It depends. It just depends. You
It
can't.
always depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them. If I discuss with people exact on that exact topic, to me it always depends. That's why it's triggering me, because they usually are on one side only,
Hmm.
and I tell them it always depends.
Yeah.
So
So
this, yeah.
I've been speaking to coaches recently, and there's no secret that in this industry we like our opinions and we stick with our opinions, and there's a lot of coaches that don't want to hear anything else apart from they're
Mm-hmm.
right and you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like obviously having a podcast, I get exposed to all different types of programs, all different types um of doing the same job. But for me it's like I I can never say that's shit that doesn't work because I don't have
Mm-hmm.
their athletes. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have their head strength coaches. So for me, I always have to put myself in their shoes and be like, okay, why has your opinion been formulated by this? And that could be for
mm,
a
Yeah.
plethora of reasons,
Yeah.
like their
Yeah.
mentors, their influences, the resources that they read. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's like let me understand the background as to why you program this way, so
Yeah.
then I can
Exactly. Yeah.
see your point of view. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I really appreciate you guys for coming on today. If you want to give a shout out to your pages and your gym as well, um, I'd be more than happy to put that up as to help you guys.
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for having
Mm-hmm.
us and for organizing and creating your podcast. I mean, I'm
Thank you.
sure it's a big chunk of work to do that
Mm-hmm.
and to
Yes.
get people on talking about interesting topics. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's all good.
Thanks.
I will tell people where they can go find you guys. So this is the gym. This is
Yeah,
Anja,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Evo. I will also link your Instagrams and pages in the description if people want to check you out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming on, and I will see you soon in Switzerland.
We're looking forward to it.
Looking forward.
Perfect. Peace.